of you. We start with an inspirational quote. If you hear a voice within you saying that you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. Whenever there is a negative thought in you, try to make it positive. You fight with it. So this is given by Vincent van Gogh. He is a famous painter. And okay, today whose birthday it is? So the great Saint Sai Baba of Shirdi. So the great thing with him is there is a great Hindu following and also Muslim following. He is considered as a Hindu saint by Hindus and a Muslim saint by Hindus, the Muslims. And he says, whatever you may be remembered, whatever you may do, remember that you cannot escape the consequences of your actions, good or bad, committed either in the life itself or in your past life. So we have to be careful and cautious whatever we do, because we are responsible for it and we have to face the consequences. That we should never forget, whatever we do. And he also says the end of knowledge is wisdom, the end of culture is perfection, the end of wisdom is freedom, the end of education is character, and character consists of eagerness to renounce one's selfish greed. So his teachings combined elements of Hinduism and Islam. He gave the Hindu name Dwarka Mai to the mosque in which he lived, practiced both Hindu and Muslim rituals, taught using words and figures that drew from both the traditions, and took Samadhi in Shirdi. Now he is one of the most revered god in South India, North India also. So there is another great singer. I think everybody is familiar, Bharat Ratna Lata Mangeshkar, great Indian singer. She was born today. And she says it was not really the external influences that made me a singer. Music was within me. I was full of it. That is the passion she has. And she says, my father used to tell me, whoever helps you improve your music is your guru. So whenever somebody is there to improve your quality or awareness, so that person will be your guru. And she says, I have followed that lesson throughout of my life. She has recorded songs in over 1,000 Hindi films and has sung songs in over 36 regional Indian languages and foreign languages, though primarily in Marathi, Hindi, and Bengali. The Dada Saheb Phalke Award was bestowed on her in 1989 by the Government of India. In 2001, in recognition of her contributions to the nation, she was awarded the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian honor. Okay, now we go to the present lecture, 16. Actually 15 because we stopped in between. So maybe most of it again, a little bit of repetition, and again then we will continue to the new topics. Okay, these things are same. So the first thing we have done in the last class is we have proved two reversible adiabatics never intersect on a PV diagram by each other. So we have proved it by assuming that they intersect each other. We have taken two lines to adiabatics which intersect at A, and we have taken a reversible isothermal which cuts both of the adiabatics at B and C. So it forms a cycle ABC. So if you consider the ABC cycle, and if you make it as a clockwise cycle, and if you go through these processes, so naturally there is an area included in the cycle which gives that there is a positive work done by the system. And because there are two adiabatics where there is no heat transfer, there is only one process through which heat transfer takes place at constant temperature. So it shows that this particular cycle produces positive work by interacting with a single reservoir, which violates the second law. So this shows that our initial assumption that two adiabatics intersect each other is wrong. So two adiabatics can never intersect each other in a PV diagram. So this is the first proof we have done. And then we have proved that any reversible cycle can be split into large number of Carnot cycles. So if you take a arbitrary reversible cycle, and if you draw a number of adiabatics cutting them, because they never intersect, so I will get so many lines. And each two lines I consider at the top intersecting the boundary one isothermal, and in the bottom also intersecting the boundary with one isothermal in such a way that some area added and some area subtracted, which will be same on both sides. So it will become number of strips. Each is a Carnot cycle. So the total area is same as the total area of all the cycles, and the total heat added and total heat rejected also will be same. And finally, it shows that a reversible cycle can be split into large number of Carnot cycles. Okay, if you take a strip of it and a small Carnot cycle, then efficiency of that is 1 minus delta QL by delta QH, and which is 1 minus TL by TH, which we have already shown that for a Carnot cycle, efficiency is 1 minus TL by TH. Because these two are same, and if I bring this delta QL by TL this side, I will get this. And this is positive and this is negative. So taking this sign into consideration, it becomes plus. Plus means sum. So if I take it integral of delta Q by T reversible for a cycle is equal to 0. So this is what is called as Clausius theorem. And the cyclic integral of delta Q by T for a reversible cycle is equal to 0 is called Clausius theorem. And this we call it as mathematical statement of second law of thermodynamics. Because cyclic integral of some integrand is equal to 0 is first law of thermodynamics, delta Q minus delta W. Similar statement here, if you take it this way. So in the same way as we got a new property, internal energy in the first law of thermodynamics, here also it says because integral of some integrand is equal to 0 means, so this is change of some property. Right? So once you complete a cycle, the change in property is 0. So delta Q by T is change in a property. So that property is called the entropy. That property is called entropy. And we write delta Q by T reversible is equal to ds. Okay, so this also we have proved that to show that delta Q by T is entropy, the same way as we introduced the internal energy, here also we have done. So if delta Q by T in this cycle, A1A2 BC is 0, so 1A2 and 2B1 it is 0, and 1A2C1 if I take 1A2 and 2C1 is 0, so this is equal to this, which shows that it is independent of the path and it is a point function. So it is a exact differential. So delta Q by T reversible is ds, or ds is equal to delta Q by T, or delta Q is equal to TdS for a reversible process. And because it is Q by T, it is kilojoule per Kelvin. And if you take specific entropy, it is kilojoule per kg Kelvin. And this is for a reversible cycle only. So what happens to irreversible cycle? And that we have done here. Because efficiency of irreversible cycle is less than reversible cycle. If I write the formula here and here, and this is equal, reversible cycle efficiency is 1 minus TL by TH. If I substitute 1 minus TL by TH here, and 1 gets cancelled, and if minus is taken out, the symbol will become greater than. So QL by QH is greater than TL by TH. And so if I interchange these two, QL by TL is greater than QH by TH, or QH by TH is less than QL by TL, and bring it this side, it will become minus here. And this minus, because again, if I take QL is the sign of is negative, so again it becomes summation, and integral delta Q by T is less than 0. So this is for irreversible cycle. And we already know Clausius theorem that this is equal to 0 for reversible cycle. And combining these two, we get integral delta Q by T is less than or equal to 0, which is called as Clausius inequality. Equal to for reversible, less than for irreversible. If it is greater than, that is impossible cycle, which is against the nature. So then we come to what is called as law of increase of entropy. So we got this Clausius inequality, integral delta Q by T is less than or equal to 0. And because integral delta Q by T is ds, and for reversible cycle, if you take irreversible cycle, so ds is greater than delta Q by T irreversible. So combining this and this, we get ds is greater than or equal to delta Q by T. This is what is called as law of increase of entropy, or principle of increase of entropy. And equal to for reversible, greater than for irreversible. Again, less than for impossible. Okay, this is what is called principle of increase of entropy. So if you observe this particular one, for adiabatic process, delta Q is 0. So ds is greater than or equal to 0. And if it is reversible adiabatic, then ds equal to 0. For reversible adiabatic process, ds equal to 0. Means S is constant for reversible adiabatic, because of which we call reversible adiabatic process as isentropic process. This is important. Okay. Reversible adiabatic process is isentropic process. There is another proof later we show that the isentropic process may not be reversible adiabatic, but reversible adiabatic is always isentropic. So this we have to remember. Okay. So the other thing is, so delta Q by T is 0 even for isolated system. So if I take an isolated system, ds is greater than or equal to 0. And the best example for that is universe, as I told. Okay. So for a universe, ds is always greater than or equal to 0. Means for every activity that is happening in the universe, because all real processes are irreversible. So for every process, there is an increase in the entropy. Ts is greater than 0. Okay, this is what is called as the law of increase of entropy. For everything, always the entropy of the universe continuously increase like that. For every action of everybody, right? So you are listening the lecture, I am giving the lecture, we are increasing the entropy without our knowledge. Right? By every action of ours, we are increasing the entropy of the universe. Okay, so that is what is called as the law of increase of entropy. The entropy of the universe continuously increase. Okay, that we will talk it again further later. And here, like because S is a property, entropy is a property. Another popular graph is TS diagram. Like PV diagram, we have TS diagram also. So what is the advantage of that? Because I know that delta Q reversible is equal to TdS. Delta Q by T is ds. So delta Q reversible is TdS. Or Q reversible is integral TdS. We have W for a quasi-static process is integral PdV. Because of that, the area under a PV process is equal to work transfer. In the same way, the area under the process of a TS diagram, the area under that will give me heat transfer. Okay, so that is the advantage of a TS diagram. By seeing the process, I can find out how much heat is transferred. Okay, and another thing is, okay, heat transfer in a reversible process is area under TS diagram. And for a reversible process, Q reversible is integral TdS or T integral 1 to 2 S2 minus S1. So for isothermal process, T comes out because T is constant. Okay, so S2 minus S1 reversible isothermal is Q by T. Okay, normally for a reservoir, when a reservoir gets some heat or loses some heat, it will be at the same temperature because its temperature will not change. Then that's why we call them as reservoirs. So whenever there is heat loss or gain from a reservoir, the entropy change is Q by T because T is constant. So if it is a high temperature reservoir, it will be Q by TH. If it is low temperature reservoir, it is Q by TL. So the change in entropy for an isothermal process, reversible isothermal process, is Q by T. And for reversible adiabatic process, because Q is 0, ds is 0, and it is constant, that's why it's called as isentropic process. If I take a Carnot cycle, okay, Carnot cycle, 2 reversible isothermals and 2 reversible adiabatics, which are isentropics. Okay, so I will have 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines. A Carnot cycle is a rectangle on TS diagram. Okay, remember that a Carnot cycle is a rectangle on a TS diagram. And so the top one, this horizontal line, area under this, because it is TH is constant, the area under this will give me heat added. The area under this TL equal to constant horizontal line will give me heat lost. Okay, because this is going in the reverse direction, that is negative direction. It is towards positive direction. Okay, so that is entropy increasing direction. This is entropy decreasing direction. Entropy increases means you are adding heat. Entropy decreases means you are reducing heat. So added heat minus the rejected heat gives me the area of this cycle. Okay, so the area of any cycle gives me the net heat transfer in a cycle. And we know that on a PV diagram, the area included in a cycle is equal to net heat transfer for that particular cycle. And we know from the first law, integral delta Q is integral delta W cycle around a cycle. So area of PV diagram is equal to area of a TS diagram. So if I draw the cycle in a PV diagram, area gives me heat transfer. If I draw the same cycle on a TS diagram, area gives me heat transfer. Work transfer and heat transfer for a cycle should be same. So area of PV diagram is equal to area of a TS diagram. So this you have to remember. And also you see that if it is clockwise, I have more heat added and less heat rejected. If it is in the reverse way, I will have less heat added and more heat rejected. So that will be a work absorbing cycle, or for heat pump or refrigeration or a compressor, it will be anti-clockwise. Okay, so that's it. So Carnot cycle, so the heat added is equal to area under this TH into S2 minus S1. And heat rejected QL is equal to TL is constant, TL into S3 minus S4. So a Carnot cycle is QH minus QL by QH, or 1 minus QL by QH. And this also we know as 1 minus TL by TH. So this is equal to 1 minus QL by QH is QL is TH into S2 minus S1, QL is TL into S3 minus S3. If you cancel these two, I am getting this 1 minus TL by TH, which we already know, right? So net heat transfer is equal to QH minus QL, that is this TH into S2 minus S1 minus TL into S3 minus S4. And we know that S2 minus S1 is S3 minus S4. Because it is a rectangle, this difference is equal to this difference. So TH minus TL into S2 minus S1, which is area of the TS diagram. So one is the length and another is the width. So clockwise cycle results in positive work, and anti-clockwise cycle results in negative work. And a power plant, an IC engine, an aircraft engine, all those things will have clockwise cycles, means power producing cycles. A refrigerator, a heat pump, a compressor will have anti-clockwise cycles, which are work absorbing cycles. That is, we have to supply work. And first law of thermodynamics, integral delta is delta W is equal to integral delta Q. So area of PV diagram is area of TS diagram. So on a TS diagram, horizontal lines are isothermals, vertical lines are isentropics. Because entropy constant, isentropic line is vertical, and isothermal line T equal to constant, so it is horizontal. So two horizontal lines and two vertical lines gives me a Carnot cycle. Any doubts? Is it okay? So we further discuss this increase of entropy principle, which is ds is greater than or equal to delta Q by T, and equal to for reversible and greater than for irreversible. And for an isolated system, delta Q equal to 0, ds is greater than or equal to 0. So all real and natural processes are irreversible. So everything that happens in the universe increases the entropy of the universe, which is called the law of increase of entropy or principle of increase of entropy. And for a reversible process, ds is greater than or irreversible. For a natural process, ds is greater than or equal to delta Q by T. Okay, so means if I want to keep it is equal to, so I have to add something. ds is equal to delta Q by T plus some additional thing which is called as Sgen, means entropy that is generated. Okay, so for every process, as I told, some entropy increase will be there in the universe, and that increase in entropy is called entropy generated, Sgen. So Sgen is entropy generated in the process due to irreversibilities. And why this increase in the entropy? It is because of irreversibilities during the process. And so ds of universe is greater than or equal to 0 means, it doesn't mean that the system entropy always increase. No, the system entropy, if it increases, in the surroundings there will be, if the system entropy decreases, in the surroundings there will be more increase in the entropy. That is, ds system plus ds surroundings total is greater than or equal to 0. This is not ds system, this is ds universe. This you have to be clear about, right? So whenever some process happens, It doesn't mean that entropy of the system increases. It depends on delta Q only. If delta Q is positive, entropy increase. If delta S is negative, entropy decrease for a system. But if there is a heat rejection by the system entropy decrease, but surroundings entropy increase more than what decrease is there in the system. So the total change in the system always increase. Because system plus surroundings is universe entropy increase, but not for the system. So this must be very, very clear. Entropy may decrease locally at some region within the isolated system, within the universe, but it must be compensated by a greater increase in the entropy somewhere in the surroundings, so that the net effect is an entropy increase in the universe. This statement you always remember. So energy of the universe remain constant. We know that from the first law, energy is conserved, but the entropy of the universe tends towards maximum. It's continuously increase. At some point, it may reach to the maximum level. That is called as heat death of the universe. Heat death of the universe means if there is no increase in the entropy, what it means is there is no heat transfer anywhere in the universe. No heat transfer anywhere in the universe means as long as there are stars, suns, and all, so there will be high temperature, low temperature, high temperature, low temperature. There will be heat transfers taking place from high temperature body to low temperature body, and there will be complete continuous increase of the entropy. So when will it be reach maximum? When everything is of same temperature. All come to equilibrium. So this is called as state of maximum equilibrium, or state of equilibrium, which is state of maximum entropy. This is called as heat death of the universe. That is the end of the universe. Everywhere the temperature is same throughout the universe. So no heat transfers, no change in the entropy. Okay. So that is what is called as heat death of the universe. Is it clear? Did you understand about that heat death of the universe? Yes. So applications of principle of increase of entropy. So this already we have discussed in the last class. So to understand why every process increases the entropy, if there is a transfer of heat through a finite temperature difference. So this is important. If it is infinitesimal temperature difference, then it becomes reversible process. If there is a finite temperature difference, it is irreversible process, which should increase the entropy, which is demonstrated here. If I have system A, reservoir A at high temperature, reservoir B at a low temperature TL, and because of the temperature difference, there is a heat transfer taking place. This is constant temperature, this is constant temperature. So there is a decrease in the entropy here because it is losing heat. There is an increase in the entropy here because of gaining heat. So for reservoir A, delta SA is equal to minus Q by TH because Q is negative. Okay, minus Q by TH. For reservoir B, delta SB is Q by TL. It is plus Q. Okay, so here there is decrease in the entropy. Here there is an increase in the entropy. But if you take the whole universe, okay, for this system, this is surrounding. So both together is universe. So if I want to find out what is the change in the entropy of the universe, S is equal to, or delta S is equal to delta SA plus delta SB minus Q by TH plus Q by TL. And so Q into TH minus TL by TH TL. So if TH is greater than TL, okay, then delta S universe is greater than 0. This is a positive thing. So it increases and the process is irreversible and possible and entropy increase. If both temperatures are same, so there is no heat transfer at all. So there will not be any change in the entropy of the universe and it is reversible. Okay. And if TH is less than TL, then delta S universe less than 0. But this process is impossible because there cannot be heat transfer from low temperature to high temperature. This violates the second law. Okay, this is what you can understand, that whenever there is a heat transfer in the universe, the entropy of the universe increases. But for something there will be decrease and for something there will be increase. But the total of these two will be net increase in the entropy of the universe. Okay. Okay, another irreversible process we will take. It is like something similar to free expansion. Means there are two fluids, one at low temperature and one at high temperature. Here temperatures here. So M1 mass, specific heat C, and temperature T1, M2, C2, T2 for another fluid which is separated by a partition, and where T1 is greater than T2. So suppose this partition is removed here. So there will be some heat lost by the hot fluid and taken by the cold fluid. And so heat lost from the hot fluid is equal to heat gained by the cold fluid. And if the final temperature is some Tf, which is between T1 and T2, then heat lost by hot fluid is M1C1 into T1 minus Tf. And the heat gained by cold fluid is M2C2 into Tf minus T2. That is MC delta T. And so from this, I can find out what is final temperature Tf. Okay, so M1C1 T1 plus M2C2 T2 by M1C1 plus M2C2. So these similar problems we are going to do later when you talk about gas mixtures. Okay, so if two gases at two different temperatures mix each other with different properties, so what is the final temperature? Okay, and this is one. And delta S1 is negative because T1 is greater than Tf, right? And delta S2 is positive. And what is delta S1? And delta S1 is M1C1 log Tf by T1, because integral delta Q by T, and delta Q is MC dt, and MC dt by T, so M1C1 log Tf by T1, and delta S2 M2C2 log Tf by T2. Because Tf is smaller than T1, so this is a less than 1, and so this will become negative, and delta S1 becomes negative. And similarly here, if you take Tf is more than T2, so this is positive, and delta S2 is greater than 0. Delta S2 positive. And delta S inverse delta S1 plus delta S2. So M1C1 log Tf by T1 plus M2C2 log Tf by T2. Okay, so this is the entropy change in the universe. So this is negative and this is positive. And if you take some values for T1, T2, and Tf, so you can understand that the net change will be increasing the entropy. Delta S1 is universe is positive, and the mixing process is irreversible. Suppose if I take M1, M2 as M, both are same masses and the same fluid or same gas, C1 equal to C2 equal to C, then delta S universe is, so MC, because both are same, if I take common, then log Tf by T1 plus log Tf by T2, because summation is product, Tf square by T1, T2. And what happens if M and C are equal? So this will become T1 plus T2 by 2, or average. Okay, if I substitute Tf here, right? So I will get this way. Tf square means T1 plus T2 whole square by 4 into T1, T2. And if I take square of this 2 this side, so this will become root T1, T2. Okay, so T1 plus T2 by 2 by root T1, T2. This is this. And so this is arithmetic mean of both temperatures. This is geometric mean of both temperatures. What I am doing is just I want to show that delta S inverse is positive. Okay, so if arithmetic mean is more than geometric mean of two numbers, then it's naturally a positive one, and delta S inverse increases. Okay, so from your mathematics you will know, or you can take some examples of two temperatures. This arithmetic mean will be more than geometric mean, and so delta S inverse is positive. So there is a small proof also here. If I take T1 plus T2, and if I take this as radius, and if I draw a curve like this, so this is the radius is equal to T1 plus T2 by 2. So if I take this is radius equal to T1 plus T2 by 2, here I take some chord. Okay, so if I take this, then this is equal to dB square is equal to AB into BC. So this is a simple geometry. dB square, like stereometer, if you remember, similar formula we have used. dB square is equal to AB into BC. Okay, so AB is T1 and BC is T2. So and dB, and so this is T1 plus T2 by 2, and you can show that dB is root T1, T2, and we know that this is longer than this. So arithmetic mean is greater than geometric mean. Okay, So that's why delta S inverse is positive. It is just, again, we are showing with different examples that for every action or every process, there is a net increase in the universe, entropy of the universe. Okay, entropy transfer with heat transfer. So whenever there is a heat transfer taking place between two systems, there is an entropy transfer from one system to another. Okay, so that's what actually it is happening here. So here, when it is taking place, some entropy actually is getting transferred to another system. So whenever there is a heat transfer, it is accompanied by a entropy transfer. So if heat, okay, we'll see here. When heat is added to a system, delta Q is greater than 0 and ds increase. When heat is removed, delta Q is less than 0 and ds decrease. So heat transfer to the system increases the internal energy of the system. Okay, this is another important point you remember. Heat transfer to the system increases the internal energy of the system. If there is no work transfer, right, what is happening to the heat that is given to the system? It increases the internal energy of the system. Internal energy increased means the molecules become more active and there will be more collisions, and which increases the disorder of the system. Okay, this is very important. Whenever there is increase in the entropy, right, it shows that there is increase in the disorder of the system. Okay, so molecules are going in their own way and colliding each other very often. So it shows the disorder in the system. So whenever there is a heat transfer to the system, there is increase in the entropy of the system and also increase in the disorder of the system. So entropy is a measure of disorder of a system. So this is another important physical interpretation of entropy. So heat is thus regarded as a disorganized or disordered energy transfer, which increases molecules chaos. Okay, chaos means random and increase in disorder. So if heat flows reversibly from a system to surroundings, reversibly at T0, suppose there is a system here and it is transferring heat Q to the surroundings, which is at T0, then delta S of system is minus Q by T0 and delta S surroundings is plus Q by T0 and delta S inverse is equal to 0. Because it is reversible heat transfer, both are at the same temperatures, so delta S inverse is 0. The system has lost entropy to the surroundings and surroundings has gained entropy from the system. Okay, here this has lost some entropy, this has gained some entropy. That is, some entropy is transferred from the system to the surroundings. So there is a entropy transfer from the system to the surroundings, and there is a flow of disorder with the heat. Okay, so whenever there is a heat transfer, there is flow of entropy also, and not only that, flow of disorder also. This disorder is going into the surroundings, right? But if there is a work transfer, there will not be any change in the entropy. So system devices delivers work. There is a system, suppose it is giving work to a flywheel which is rotating. And so energy is stored in the flywheel and can be recovered. Okay, so here there is nothing disorder. Actually, this is an ordered transfer. Okay, because it is work, the work is of high order system and high quality system. So this is in order and I can always recover. I can always recover. Whatever is lost here, it cannot be recovered. But whatever is lost here by the system, again I can recover it because work is of high quality energy. So flywheel molecules rotate in ordered and organized way. So no entropy increase in the flywheel and no entropy transfer along the work. So there is entropy transfer with the heat transfer, but no entropy transfer with the work. So there is another concept what is called as entropy generated. Okay, so means some entropy is increased, right? So that is we called as entropy generated. So same thing which we already discussed. ds is greater than or equal to integral delta Q by T, right? And S2 minus S1 is equal to integral delta Q by T 1 to 2 for reversible. And if it is irreversible, this plus so if it is irreversible, it is greater than this, so I have to add something which is called as Sgen. So how much entropy is generated means Sgen is equal to S2 minus S1 minus integral delta Q by T 1 to 2. So this is entropy generation during a process due to internal irreversibilities. As I told, why entropy increases? It is due to internal irreversibilities like friction, inertia, and all those things. And the change of entropy in a process takes place due to two reasons. So why this S2 minus S1 is positive? One, because of heat transfer. Another, it is due to irreversibilities. By heat transfer, in which there is entropy transfer due to this, and by internal irreversibilities or dissipative effects, in which work or kinetic energy is lost and internal energy increases. Okay, that is what is called as Sgen. Because of these two reasons, there will be increase in the entropy. Entropy transfer may be positive or negative based on delta Q. That's what I told. Sgen, okay, this S2 minus S1 may be positive or negative. But Sgen is always a path function and not a property function. This Sgen depends on what is the path taking place. As I told, if it is reversible process, Sgen is 0. If it is irreversible process, Sgen is positive. So this is a point function. Sorry, it is a path function. It depends on the path of travel, right? And also this is always either positive or 0. 0 for reversible and positive for irreversible. So Sgen is a path function and not a property of the system. And this is always positive. There can be decrease of entropy. Okay, this is another important thing, right? Here, the change in entropy comes because of these two, right? And delta Q by T may be positive or negative based on delta Q. Sgen is always positive. So we may come to a particular process in which this is negative, which is equal to this positive, and the net effect will be 0. Okay. There can be decrease of entropy due to heat loss and increase of entropy due to irreversibilities, making entropy constant or isentropic process. So it may become isentropic, but it is not adiabatic or not reversible, right? It is neither reversible nor adiabatic, but there may be a process in which the heat loss due to this is equal to the heat gained due to this, and it may become constant entropy. But that is not a reversible adiabatic. So that's what I was talking about. An isentropic process need not be reversible adiabatic, but a reversible adiabatic process is always isentropic process. For any process, energy is always conserved and entropy always increased for real process. Okay, so this is another important concept, because these will not be explained in many books. Okay, so and they may be asked in interviews: is reversible adiabatic is isentropic, or isentropic is reversible adiabatic? And similarly, quasi-static, is it reversible, or reversible is quasi-static? So there are restrictions. One way is completely right, but other way it's partially right. Okay, so these things you have to be clear. And we'll like we have mass conservation, energy conservation, or energy equation. Like that, entropy equation also will be there from second law. Okay, and if I have previously I have studied for closed system. This is the entropy balance for a closed system. S2 minus S1 is integral delta Q by T plus Sgen, or S generated is equal to S2 minus S1 minus delta Q by T. This is called as entropy balance equation for closed system. If it is open system, there is some mass entering and mass leaving. So some entropy increases, enters with the mass, some entropy leaves with the mass. Okay, so if I write all the equations here, you have to be familiar with these equations. And mass conservation, sigma mi, mass entering, minus sigma me, mass leaving, mass exit, right? E means exit. So this rate of change of entropy of the mass of the control volume is equal to the net mass entering and net mass leaving. Okay, this is mass conservation or mass continuity equation. And energy conservation is equal to energy entering through mass minus energy leaving with the mass plus heat added minus work done by the system is equal to rate of change of total energy of the system. So this is what is called as energy conservation. As I told, this is generalized systems, right? Generalized equations for steady or unsteady, uniform flow, whatever it is. I didn't assume anything here. Similarly, entropy balance. Entropy entered with the mass and entropy leaving with the mass plus any heat transfers are there, sigma q dot k Tk. So if this q dot taking place at Tk, so number of heat transfers may be there. So I can have sigma plus S dot gen, the generated entropy, is equal to rate of change of entropy for the control volume. This is rate equation. We call it as rate equation. If I put a dot here, this is per second. So it is kilowatt per Kelvin. Okay. If it is not rate equation, then energy and the entropy entering minus entropy leaving. And I remove dots here. Okay. And here I will not put ds by dt. I will put that is integrated. Okay. So S2 minus S1 of the control volume. This will be kilojoule per Kelvin. If I per unit mass, if I take, it will become kilowatt per Kelvin, and this becomes ds by dt. So this must be very clear to you. Okay, this is the entropy balance equation. Means the rate of entropy change within the control volume, that is ds by dt Cv, is equal to sum of the rate of entropy transfers through the control volume by heat transfer, that is this, and the mass flow, that is this, these two, and the rate of entropy generation, this, within the control volume due to irreversibilities. Okay, mass entering through mass, mass leaving with entropy leaving with mass, and entropy change because of heat transfers plus entropy generated is equal to rate of change of entropy within the control volume. This is the generalized rate of entropy equation or entropy balance equation. And if it is steady flow, okay, then ds by dt is equal to 0. Okay, and then S dot gen is equal to, if I take these all of these things to the other side, and if mass flow in is equal, because mass flow in is equal to mass flow out, m dot I is equal to m dot E equal to m dot. So m dot into SE minus SI. Okay, I am taking it to the other side. So m dot into SE minus SI minus, this becomes minus sigma q dot k Tk. Okay, this is for steady, this is steady flow entropy balance. So if it is adiabatic also, then this will become 0, and generated entropy is equal to leaving entropy minus entering entropy. And because S dot gen is greater than or equal to 0, because this is always positive, and whenever entropy enters and leaves, so this is positive, means exit entropy should be more than inlet entropy. So whenever mass comes and leaves, right, during the flow, its entropy increase. Entropy of the fluid must increase as it flows through the system, through an adiabatic system. Whenever there is no heat transfer, but it is entering and leaving, just entering and leaving, and because of that, there is an increase in the entropy, because there is S gen is equal to m dot into SE minus SE. Okay, then entropy of a pure substance. If I have a pure substance, how to find out the entropy? If you remember, when you have seen the steam tables, we have entropy also, SF, SG, and SFG. Okay, in the same way, UF, UZ, UFG, HF, HG, HFG, VF, VG, VFG, like that. We entropy on the saturated liquid line, it is SF, where X equal to 0, dryness fraction is 0. And S on this portion of the line, which is X equal to 1, right? So SG, okay, the value is SG. And between this, I will have the value of entropy between SF and SG based on the dryness fraction. Okay, so if you are knowing temperature and dryness fraction, or pressure and dryness fraction, you go to the saturated tables and you find what is SF, what is SFG, and what is SG. So you can find out then what is the entropy if I have at this particular point where X is some 0.7, right? So I have to substitute this, SF and SFG I have to take from the saturated tables at T2. Then I will get what is the entropy at this point. Okay, that is the way I can find out the entropy of saturated liquid vapor mixture at any given temperature or pressure. But if you are on this side or this side, superheated vapor or compressed liquid, I should know both T3 and P3. So again, you have to go to the superheated tables corresponding to P3, and in that you will have number of temperatures, and corresponding to T3 you will have specific volume, internal energy, enthalpy, and entropy. You have to take that particular entropy. So in the same way, we have, after the superheated tables, we have compressed liquid tables whose temperature is less than saturation temperature for that given pressure. Then again, I will have P1, T1. So P1 tables you have to take, and in that corresponding to T1, you find out S1. If you are missing with compressed liquid tables, in some tables, you may not be given compressed liquid tables. And what you have to do is corresponding to that T1, right? Whatever is SF, that itself you can take it as S1. That is, it is independent of P. Why? Because it is compressed liquid, so you cannot compress it further. So its value, I can take it as equal to this. Okay, so that's what we have to do when entropy is a pure substance, whether it is compressed liquid or saturated liquid vapor mixture or superheated vapor, I can find out the entropy of the system. Just like there is nothing new for specific volume, internal energy, enthalpy, whatever you are doing, you have to do the same thing for entropy also. And okay, this is another important thing, right? Combined consequences of first and second law TDS relations. Okay, and you know this first law of thermodynamics, delta T is equal to dE plus delta W. Okay, this is for any process and for any system, whether it is open system or closed system, whether it is a quasi-static or non-quasi-static or reversible or irreversible, whatever it is. But we know that for reversible process, delta Q is TDS and delta W is PdV. As I told, reversible means quasi-static. This is true for quasi-static. So this is true for reversible also. Okay. Now suppose I take, instead of dV, I take du. Means now I am restricting the system to a closed system, closed stationary system. Okay, so this equation holds good for any process, but for closed system only, not open system. Because once you take open system, kinetic energy and potential energy will come, and I have to take this total energy. If I write only internal energy, it is for a closed system. And suppose I substitute delta W is equal to PdV here. Then, so this is true for only reversible process, and this is for a closed system. So this equation must be a quasi-static process and a simple compressible closed system. And instead of this, I will write delta W only, but delta Q TDS if I keep, then this is only for reversible process. So it is reversible process and closed system. Okay, not for any, it is closed system. And if I write delta Q is TDS and delta W is PdV, and if I substitute both of them, and here, if somebody asks you what type of process it will be, right? So naturally, you will immediately say reversible process, but not. This is true for any process. It need not be reversible. So this is important. Why? Can anybody tell why? Delta Q is TDS for reversible process only. Delta W is PdV for quasi-static process only. But the TDS is equal to du plus PdV is true for any process. Can anybody try to say why it is? No, Satish, still better. Can anybody try? So I told you one thing, if you remember, du is equal to Cv dt, we derived it for a isochoric process, but I told it is true for any process. Why? Will anybody respond? Yeah. No, still you just recollect. I told you du is equal to c. Yeah, it is state function. That is, all are properties. Okay, if you see that equation, so T, S, U, P, V, all are properties only. All are state functions. Okay, all are point functions. So because of that, it is independent of the process. Because all properties here are independent of the process, the whole equation is independent of the process. So this is true for any process. This is important. This is what is called as TDS relation. TDS is equal to du plus PdV. It is an important relation which you have to remember. And this TDS relation has written in terms of enthalpy also, because H is equal to U plus PV. And if I differentiate dH, du, and if I differentiate PV, I will get PdV and VdP. And the du plus PdV is equal to, if I take this, dH minus VdP. So I can write here TDS is equal to dH minus VdP. Both are same, but I am writing in terms of enthalpy. Okay. So this also, again, all are properties. So this is also true for any process. These two are important, which are called as TDS relations. Which are called as TDS relations, which are true for any process. As there are only properties present in TDS relations, they are independent of the path and valid for all processes. Is it okay? So from here, we will get important relations or equations for change in entropy, which is useful for measuring the entropy or calculating the entropy. Okay, so that we will do in the next class. Okay, so any questions? Any doubts or questions? Okay, simple system means simple compressible system. Actually, delta W is equal to PdV. When I derived, I told it is a simple compressible system. Means all electric, magnetic, or spring, or all other energy transfers are absent. It is only a simple compressible system. Okay, so that is called that. So usually in thermodynamics, we'll deal with the simple compressible systems only. All other things. Yeah, S-gen. Okay. So ds is greater than or equal to delta Q by T. Okay. Equal to is reversible, greater than for irreversible. Okay. So that is, it is greater than delta Q by T means delta Q by T plus something. Okay. Something added, something is to be added. Okay. That is what is called as entropy generation. Some generation is generated. For reversible process, ds equal to delta Q by T. But now it is greater than delta Q by T means to delta Q by T, I have to add something, which is due to irreversibilities. Right? So S-gen is due to irreversibilities, which is increasing the entropy during the process. Is it okay? Anything else? Okay, we'll go to the story then. So in some MBA class, okay, one instructor came into the class, and so once he says that one of the students, once I attended a seminar where the instructor was lecturing on time. At one point, he said, "Okay, time for a quiz." He reached onto the table and pulled out a wide-mouthed gallon jar. He set it on the table next to a platter with some fist-sized rocks in it. "How many of these rocks do you think we can get into the jar?" he asked. After we made our guess, he said, "Okay, let's find out." He set one rock in the jar, then another, then another. I don't remember how many he got in, but he got the jar full. Then he asked, "Is this jar full?" Everyone looked at the rocks and said, "Yes." The trainer said, "Huh? Is it?" He reached under the table and pulled out a bucket of gravel. Then he dumped some gravel in it and shook the jar, and the gravel went in all the little spaces left by the big rocks. Thereafter, he grinned and said once more, "Is the jar full now?" By this time, the participants guessed the answer from past experience. "Probably not," he said. "Okay, good," he replied. Then he reached under the table and brought a bucket full of sand and started dumping the sand in the jar. It went into all the little spaces left by the rocks and the gravel. And once more he looked and said, "Is this jar full?" "No," we roared. "So what else?" He said, "Good." And he grabbed a pitcher of water and began to pour it in. He got something like a quart of water in that jar. Then he said, "Well, what's the point?" Then somebody said, "Well, there are gaps, and if you work really hard, you can always fit some more things into your life." Because actually, he says the space in the jar is your time. Okay, so what it means, what he wants to convey, he asked, okay, what could be the moral of it? Then somebody said, there are gaps, and if you work really hard, you can always fit some more things into your life. No, he said, that's not really the point. So the actual point he wanted to convey is, the point is this: put the big rocks first. The trainer continued, now I want you to recognize that this jar is your life. The fist-sized rocks are the important things: your physical and mental health, your family, your life partner, and children. Anything that is so important to you that if it were lost, it will make a big impact on your life and you would be nearly destroyed. So those are the rocks, fist-sized rocks. The gravels are the other things in life that matter, but lesser than the above ones. The gravels represent the things like your career, job, house, friends, social connections, or car-like things. And the sand is everything else, the other small stuff in life. Maybe watching movies, going pubs, or seeing TV, and all those things. If you put the sand or the pebbles into the jar first, there is no room for the rocks. Many times it happens in our life, sometimes in the holidays, or sometimes whenever you are free. So first you watch starting TV, movies, or seasons, or something like that. So what happens, there will not be enough time for your studies or anything later. So that is, you are filling the jar with the sand and the pebbles. That's why I said the point is, put the big rocks first. So important things you do first. Then definitely you will have a lot of time in between. Okay, so you can always relax in between. He continued, I hope now you understand the same goes for your life. If you spend all your energy and time on the lesser important small stuff and materialistic things, you will never have space for the things that are truly most important. Pay attention to the things that are important in your life and spend time on the important. And it was great food for thought for all the participants. It changed my approach towards managing time in life. That's what the lessons from the story. We all need to manage our jar of time and put the big rocks first. That is top priority tasks. Prioritizing will help us to decide which task is to be done first and which one at later stage. And we need to achieve a balance in life. We have a lot of time wasters in life. During that time, we can put gravels, that is moderately priority and value, and sand are less priority, and water no priority but important, as per the priority and space available. Making a balance of all these will lead to more satisfaction in life. You just can't keep focus excessively on one thing and then completely neglect the other ones. Okay, thank you. Thank you. This is what the message of today. Thank you. See you again in the next class. And okay, one more thing, just be online. And about marks, I will send you just after maybe 1 or 2 hours. And the average, I didn't expect so much actually, right? Because I thought the time may not be sufficient. Many people may not be able to answer well and all, but the average out of 140, the average came to 92, right? So the people who didn't have much time cannot complain, right? So this is an optimum average, and percentage-wise, 65% average is the optimum percent, right? And I got it very right. I'm happy about that. And so the people who are below average have to be more cautious, and congrats to the people who are above average, and keep it up. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else you want to ask anybody? And one more thing, Hema asked me, many people are asking for the solutions of the problems that are given in the minor. And because I have to write them and take scan and all, I'm definitely going to send them all to you, all of you, all of. And you can switch off the recording